Call the Wilmer City Council meeting for Monday, December 18th to order. Roll call.
Mayor Calvin.
Here.
Councilmember Nelson.
Here.
Christensen.
Here.
Schwantes.
Here.
Alvarado.
Here.
Osmus.
Here.
Meske.
Here.
Plowman. Fagerly.
Here.
8 present, 1 absent.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any proposed additions or deletions to the agenda from the council? Seeing and hearing none, I'd like to move item number 12 in front of item number 9. So item number 12 is the consideration of support for funding Minnesota State Highway 23 as a corridor of commerce. Donna Boonstra will be presenting. And then Chief Hansen, just to let you know, where is he at? Okay. Chief Hansen, just letting you know then that you will move after that presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
So moved. Second.
Motion made and second to approve the amended agenda. All in discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion does carry. Next, we have consent items. Our city clerk, Ms. Thompson.
On the consent item agenda this evening, we have for council approval the city council minutes of December 4th, Wilmer Municipal Utilities minutes of December 11th, Planning Commission minutes of December 6th, application for exempt permit for the Pheasants Forever Minnesota Habitat Fund, a resolution designating polling places for 2018 elections, resolution authorizing signatures for Dover Township Fire Agreement, consideration of on-sale and club on-sale 2018 liquor license renewals, consideration of reappointments, appointments to boards and commissions. And on the reappointments, we have for the Police Commission, Dennis Anfinson, Cable Advisory Board, Jody Wambecki, Lawrence Buin, and Linda Mathiasen. CER Advisory Board, Dave Baumgart and Rachel Screetfit. EDC Operations Board, Kelly Tawisha. MUC Board, Nathan Weber and Carol Lomer. Planning Commission, Steve Gardner and Rolf Stanfus. Human Rights Commission, Richard Ingen. And new appointments to boards and commissions. For the Rice Memorial Hospital Board, we have Shane Johnson. Human Rights Commission, John Salgado Maldonado. EDC Operations Board, Kerry Johnson. Planning Commission, Jerry Kiergaard. Cable Advisory Board, John Wallen. And Municipal Utilities Commission, Brennan McDonald. Also, we have a resolution approving change order number 2 for the Airport East Taxi Lane rehab in the amount of $20,043.22. A resolution ordering preparation of a report for 2018 improvements. Approve purchase of conference room equipment for fire station in the amount of $16,827. A resolution to renew MnDOT agency delegated contracting process, and to accept the CER Joint Powers Board minutes of December 1st, Police Department statistics for November, Fire Department statistics for November, the Building Inspection Report for the month of November, and the Accounts Payable Report through December 14, 2017.
Council, what are your wishes?
Motion for approval?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the consent items as presented. Discussion. Seeing and hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Nelson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Meske.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That roll call resolution passes. Next, we have our first public hearing, which is an ordinance allowing for participation on Rice Memorial Hospital Board. Our city attorney, Mr. Scott.
Thank you, members, mayor of the city council. Before you have an ordinance that allows for participation on the Rice Hospital Board by Caris Health and Centricare. This, of course, is in follow-up to the resolution the council approved on November 20th, approving the affiliation between the Rice Hospital, Caris Health, and Centricare. Under the affiliation, Caris Health will be the entity responsible for the day-to-day operations of the facility, subject to oversight by the Rice Board. And as part of the affiliation, there will be membership and representation on each entity's boards. Caris, of course, will be locally controlled by members appointed by Rice as well as ACMC in town. There will be representation by Caris on the Centricare board, and the exchange for that is that there will be non-voting representation on the Rice Hospital board. The members from Caris would be the two co-CEOs, and the two appointees by Centricare would total 4 non-voting members on the board. So these members would not be voting. They would be able to attend the board's meetings and have input in the discussions. With that, as this was a term of the affiliation previously approved, the recommendation would be that the city council approve the ordinance, assign it a number, and order it be published.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak to this issue? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it to council. Council, what are your wishes?
I'll make a motion to adopt, assign the number, and publish the ordinance.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adopt the ordinance, assign it a number, and publish it. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Christensen.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Meski.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
And that resolution passes. Next is a continuation of the Truth in Taxation hearing. At our last meeting 2 weeks ago, we started the Truth in Taxation, and we had a number of council members that were not present, Councilmember Christensen and Councilmember Nelson. And so the council decided to hold it over so that Councilmember Nelson and Christensen could be in attendance so that they would have an opportunity to talk to the budget if they chose to do so. With that, I'll reopen the public hearing and call on our Finance Director, Mr. Okens.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as you stated, the purpose of the meeting tonight is to continue the public hearing known as the Truth in Taxation hearing, and is to establish the 2018 tax levy and the 2018 budget. Every year, as part of the budgeting process, the city is required by state statute to hold a public hearing known commonly as a Truth in Taxation hearing. The county auditor is responsible for mailing statements to each resident indicating the estimate of how much their property tax bill would either increase or decrease in the date of the hearing for the public hearing. As you stated, the initial hearing was held on December 4th. This is the continuation hearing. The action tonight would be to adopt those two resolutions, one setting the tax levy at $4,974,245. This is a 3% increase on the actual dollar, but due to new construction in the community, it is actually a decrease in the tax rate for citizens of Willmar. The second resolution is to adopt the 2018 budget at $46.2 million. Of that, $14.5 million is for the general operating budget. The other amounts are for the capital improvement, special revenue, debt service, and enterprise funds.
Okay, the council has had the budget in front of them since about the middle of September. We've had a couple of work sessions where we've talked about the budget, and then we talked about it again at our last meeting. And so the public now has an opportunity to speak to the Truth in Taxation. So if anybody is here from the public that wishes to speak to the Truth in Taxation, they can do so at this time. Again, this is the public hearing for the Truth in Taxation, which is in the 2018 budget and levy. Seeing and hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it to council. Council, what are your wishes? I believe we established the tax levy first, right, Mr. Okins?
That's right, Mr. Mayor. Another comment is that the city charter, Chapter 5, allows the council to amend the budget at any time, at any public hearing, any time of the year following this meeting. The tax levy is the only item that cannot change.
Correct. So the first order of business would be to establish the 2018 tax levy at an amount of $4,974 to, I'm sorry, $4,974,245. Wow, that was almost a big slip.
I'll make that one.
Motion been made and seconded to adopt the levy as presented. Discussion. Motion was made here, seconded over there. Discussion, Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is it your intention to leave the 3% increase in there then? Is that what we're doing?
Yes, at this point, that is, without any further discussion. I did talk at the last meeting on two different subjects that I had brought up were discussed, and that was the having fuel bought locally from local service stations. And that was talked about, actually, you were at that meeting, I think, weren't you?
That was a month ago.
That was a month ago, right? I'm sorry, I apologize. Yeah, there was no discussion in regards to the levy at the last meeting.
Can I ask why we'd increase it? It's only like $146,000, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
When we have, $14 million in reserve. Why would we increase our budget by 3% when we have twice what the state recommends us to have in reserve? Why would we do that?
If you're, Councilmember Christensen, if you're asking me why I recommended it, with the facts that I had in front of me at the time, I made that recommendation to council, and I recommend, and I stand with the recommendation that I made to increase the levy by the 3%. And I have not had a lot of pushback on that from either our constituents or the council members. And so I support the increase in the levy. And if we want to take and adjust that in future years, we can do that. But we heard this evening during our work session that we have someplace between 12 and 14 million. Those numbers have been there. I mean, that just didn't get built last year. Those numbers have been there for a while. So my recommendation, talking with the finance director and the city administrator last week, is we leave the levy where it's at. We can adjust the budget, and then next year, if we come back and look at it, we can make adjustments next year. But that gives us a year to work within the parameters of the budget. We have a fairly aggressive budget, as you've all seen, for doing a lot of good work in the community. And yes, it's only $146,000, but at the end of the day, it's $146,000. And our overall taxes, people that I've been talking to in the community on the city side of taxes are seeing a decrease someplace between 2 and 3%.
That's pretty much one time, though. I mean,
Correct.
that is not going to happen every year. I mean, it's
Right.
because of the ag, what I
Deferment.
understand.
Big deferment.
These people that have ag property within the city got theirs boosted up considerably. So pretty much everybody's insurance taxes went down on their property. But it's one time again, and what kind of logic do we use when we have $14 million, 12 to 14 million, and we want to raise our budget by $146,000? To me, that doesn't make sense. It's, your explanation defies logic, I should say. Why would we do that to the taxpayers? If it's only $146,000, am I the only one that feels that way in the council?
Councilmember Christensen, you certainly are entitled to that thought, and if you wanted to make an amendment, you certainly could do that to amend it. Councilmember Meske also wished to speak, so if you wanted to listen to him first, or if you wanted to make an amendment, it would be up to you.
I'd like to listen to him.
Councilmember Meske.
I was going to ask the same question. The agriculture tax is a one-time deal adjustment, is that correct? And then if you also, what are you projecting as far as new construction adding into that base next year? Because as I'm looking at it, I'm in the same train of thought as Councilmember Christensen is. As we look at this, it seems like that's helping this year bring it down. So I'm more comfortable moving forward with the 3% this year because everybody's is going to decrease, but next year, that's not going to be the case. And we're going to have all of the revenue we brought in this year, have this big piece that I would see for sure next year, a 3% would seem completely out of line. But any idea on predictions for new construction next year? Are we going to project the same way as we did this year?
I believe that, we heard during the work session that there's about $10 million of new construction that we think we have on the books coming in for the first part of next year. We don't know what that whole new construction will be. I know that I've had conversations with a number of developers that are thinking of bringing projects. Some of them I thought they would have brought already, and they're not here yet. And so if those projects come in, the thing that you can do is next year, you can certainly adopt a budget that is less than that. But as our finance director said, is that once you set the levy can't go down, but your budget can go down. Doesn't mean that you don't have to bring your budget down. I mean, there's ways to address this other than through the levy. And the thing of it is that you don't have levy limits in right now. I mean, the legislature could come in and put levy limits on, and then you can't do anything. Then you are stuck.
I understand, it's just that we're in that strange position that most people's taxes are going to go down, even with a 3% increase, which you
Right.
don't often see.
Correct.
However, we do have those big reserves, so for me, next year, for sure, this is going to be a bigger issue, but
Well, Councilmember Meske, this discussion on the reserves isn't a new discussion. I mean, we tried having this discussion earlier in the budgeting process, and we got that information this evening. We had it at the last meeting as well. 2 meetings ago, a month ago, we had it as well. But had I known I thought there was about 7 million, I'll be honest with you. I thought there was about 7 million there. I didn't realize it was between 12 and 14 million. It would have made a big difference. And Councilmember Christensen, to your comment, the conversation you and I had probably 3 months ago, I was looking at ways that we could cut by not buying the semi and by the fuel. Those were the two things that I was proposing. Both of those would have more than covered the levy increase. Staff assured me that there's no workaround on that. And, I'm going to trust staff as I know everybody up here does. And so that's why I'm leaving the levy where it is. If I could have cut those two things, I would have been in favor of cutting the levy by those 3 points. But at this point, I'm standing with the budget I prepared. Councilmember Nelson.
If we were, thank you, Mayor Calvin, if we were not to increase the levy at this point in time, we would need to make cuts in the budget for that total, correct?
The administrator, we would direct the administrator to adjust the budgets accordingly to meet the budget, I believe, yes.
So my second reason for saying that is we have been asking about these cash balances for several years. Previous councils have put those reserves in place, and there are policies for each one of them. We've talked about reviewing that next month. I'm not sure that we can just say we're going to subsidize our budget with our cash reserves. I think we need to be accountable for those cash reserves, and we're behind on a lot of things, and maybe that cash gets used for a one-time purpose for us to get caught up. So I struggle with where we're at right now with the information and raising the tax levy. I do think this is a responsible amount, and when you look at everything increasing, this is something I think that we have to look at, where will we do this with? And as far as the cash, I think all of us at the table need to be held accountable for why the cash is there. And what we do with it, I think we're prepared to talk about that next month. But I guess the budget that was presented includes this levy, tax increase levy, and I think it is reasonable. I hesitate to do that. I don't, but I do think with where we're at right now, the council next month could decide that the reserve should stay for various reasons. And maybe not. But we don't have that right now. And I think we're comparing apples and oranges when we talk about those two. And I think we need to be accountable for how we spend the money in the future.
Thank you. Councilmember Schwantes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our first planning session that we had, the consultant that facilitated it confirmed that, yes, in fact, this city has been so thrifty in the past that we've dug ourselves into a hole, and we need to work ourselves out of that, and that was the intent of our planning session, was to try to put together a plan. I would rather have this 3% increase this year than to find ourselves next year having to do a 10% increase because we have goals that we want to do. It's easier to do it slowly and to do it in a small increment than to find ourselves having to do something significant and having a greater impact down the road because we have work that we need to do.
Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a lot of retired and elderly people in my ward, along with single-parent families. We've just been notified that our 4% increase for the next 2 years for our sewer. We've been notified that Charter's going to raise their rates. We got a letter today. These people are on fixed incomes. $146,000 doesn't sound like a lot to the council in our budget of $46 million, but to these people it does. That means a lot, raising the minuscule amount. And to where we get the money, we got that $12 to $14 million, and it's there for that. And even if we didn't have that, we asked Mr. Oakins to find the money, he'd find it. We have unspent funds every year, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. When I first got on the council, it was over $1 million in unspent funds year after year. And it's decreased, but we have this money and to say we need to increase our budget by 3% when we have all this money, it defies logic to me. These people, and our energy costs are going to go up. We know that for sure. So I'm speaking for these people that can't afford the $2, $3, $4, $5 a month increases. And they need to be heard. And I guess I'm the one up here speaking for them. And I would offer an amendment to decrease that by 3%, eliminate the 3% increase to the budget, and hope for a second.
A motion has been made to amend the levy by the 3% increase that the mayor proposed. Need a second for that. Motion dies for lack of a second. In front of us is a motion to approve the levy at $4,974,245. Additional discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Maskey.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Well, it looks like I'm outnumbered, so I'll vote aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Next is to adopt the budget for fiscal year 2018 in the amount of $46,216,588.
So moved. Second.
Motion made and seconded to adopt the budget for fiscal year 2018 in the amount of $46,216,588. The second was from Councilmember Alvarado. Got that? Discussion. Councilmember Maskey.
When you look at a budget, just like the levy, I think you have to determine when is the time to charge and when is the time to plan. And I'm looking at levy adjustments 2018, but in this budget, there's $8.1 million that has been allocated towards the city offices and the community center. That doesn't sit well with me, I'll let you know. That's very similar when we had local option sales tax and we don't have a plan, but we say we want to move forward with a certain percent. At that retreat, we said we wanted to solicit input from the public on what they wanted in a community center and what they want to see with any kind of building projects. And I know we've heard we are going to do that, but because the budget can be adjusted at any time, I'm comfortable moving forward. Maybe this is not the time to hit that, but just so you understand, I'm not happy with that in there without a plan and without the community input on what they want to see in a community center. That stuff has to happen. I've been given assurances that that's going to happen, and I would hope that the public participates in that, because if that doesn't happen, I'm not going to, I'll vote against that project. But as we sit here today, because we can modify this budget, I'll move forward, but with very clear instructions that we have got to engage the public on a community center as well as a city hall.
Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Calvin. I too feel, I struggled with this. I do not support it as presented as it comes with the building project that was proposed. I do think that there is much more work to do within the community as to what the needs are and what it needs to be. I did ask the questions, and how the budget is built does not have any, I believe there was bonding to be done for this, and so there are no dollars specifically allocated in the 2018 budget that would need to be changed if we didn't do the project. Payments would begin in 2019. While I think there's a lot of needs for building improvements in our community, I don't think we've done our homework yet with the community and have gotten the community input. So as Councilmember Muskie said, I could not support this particular item in the budget as it's presented. And I too was reassured that we will be having a separate topic on this. There will be a separate discussion. And so for the sake of the budget purposes, I just need to go on record that I do not support that piece of the budget.
Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councilor Meskie's concerns. I have the same concerns, and this capital improvements, I've stated in the past, it's a wish list, but I don't like the fact that we haven't had input on it yet, and for that matter, we haven't had any design plans. For those that aren't aware of this, there's $8.1 million in next year's capital improvement program for a new city hall. And the dollar amount was put in there, but we don't have any plans or any estimates on what that would build or what we would have. Yeah, and I'm concerned about it. We said we were going to have these meetings and public input on it, and we have not. Same with the community center. Millions of dollars, and why would we move forward with that, not having had those meetings and had any public input on it? I don't understand it. I know that it can be changed down the road, but because again, I call them, it's a wish list, but we're putting the horse behind the wagon. So I'm concerned about it. I don't know. I can't support that that way of doing business. I just can't.
Councilmember Nelson.
Just to follow up, maybe it would be good for the public to understand how it was explained, I believe, to Councilmember Muskie and to myself, with that figures in the budget, but there are no dollars allocated for it. It would strictly be that we would have to approve bonding. So could I ask for you to just kind of walk through what you explained to us with what's going to happen?
We'll have our finance director, Mr. Okens, talk about how the funding of the process would work.
Can I just interrupt for a minute? It's not the funding part. I get the funding part. It's how are we going to engage the community in what we need? I mean, you explained that there would be meetings and that we would have information. So how are we going to, what do we need in a community center? What do we need in City Hall? What do we need in our other buildings? How are we going to do that piece? I get the funding part of it. If all of those things come together, we can find a way to fund it. But how are we going to engage the community before you ask the council to approve this?
Well, I'll take a shot at it. So I had placed this in the budget and had hoped that we would have had this conversation before tonight. What happened is, as everybody knows, in May of last year, we found out that we had some big issues with our hospital. And we spent a lot of time working on our hospital. Shortly after we heard that, we heard about our municipal utilities and our district heat, and we had to deal with that. So we were dealing with the issues that had percolated to the top. How I view it, and if the administrator doesn't agree with me, he'll tell me, but how I view it is that staff will develop a plan that will be brought to the council for consideration. Do you want to move forward with the city hall or don't you? Once that has been determined from council, that yes, we want to move forward, then we will go out and we will seek the input from the public and say, okay, we've decided we're going to move forward with the city hall, and how would you like it, where would you like it, those types of things. So those reports will come back to us in January, is the time frame that we're looking at. We haven't even started talking about the Civic Center yet. The Civic Center, if we want to change process on the Civic Center to where we want to have the public input before we have the council input, we certainly can do that. Council, you can drive the bus on this deal. I feel like I've been kind of pushing a rope. And, you know, it's difficult because on the local option sales tax, I said I didn't identify the projects first, I identified the money first. Then on this project, now I've identified the project and I'm bringing the money second. And now, so we didn't like it when we brought the local option sales tax, the way I did that, so I did it the opposite way for this. You don't like this. So, I mean, you know, the mayor can only push the rope so much, especially when he's pushing it by himself. And if you don't want it, kill it. But I stand firmly behind that our employees deserve to work in a place where they don't come to work and get sick every fall. It's not right. I mean, last year I had pneumonia. I'd walk into the city administrator's office. I couldn't even breathe. Okay? And our city administrator was working in those conditions along with our administrative assistant. I mean, I walked into City Hall in November. Surprisingly, the lady at the front desk is sick. Another lady at the front desk gets sick 2 weeks later. Okay? We have cockroaches running across the floor. I mean, is this how, I mean, does the public want our city employees to be treated like this? I don't think so. So what I did is I guess I should hand this to you. But I guess where I'm at with it is that, you know, I'm defending my budget. And I brought you the local option sales tax. You didn't like the way I did it there, so I brought it the other way. I'm not sure if there's a third way to approach this or not, but staff has done directly what we asked them to do when we put the budget together because they never got any phone calls. I talked to Mr. Okins and I talked to the administrator last Thursday. Neither of them had received a phone call.
Mayor Calvin,
Yes,
are you back?
I'm back. Yeah,
Okay.
thanks for sliding it back. Yeah.
All right.
We'll just kind of play this game here tonight.
I just want
That's
to
all.
clarify, I think what I struggled with in the budget is there was a combination of the city hall and the community center. I think you were referencing the civic center, I think you were meaning the community center in your comments earlier.
Correct. Yes, you're
Okay.
correct. I'm sorry.
There's a total difference between that. And so when you put that in, we really didn't have a lot of discussions about what that meant.
Right.
And we tried to have a meeting, and we ran out of time. We didn't address the issues of the CIP. And as I stated in the beginning, I'm okay with this as long as we have a process in place. The process in place isn't bring us the project and then go to the community. To me, it's go to the community and engage the community, at least when it comes to the community center, and then come back with what this community wants. So I think we're talking about two different things, and I think the unfortunate thing is in the budget, it looks like one.
Valid point. Councilmember Metzger.
I was trying to think where I would go with your rope analogy, but I'm just going to let it go.
You're not going to hang me with it?
Nope, little tied. But the thing is the budget does address all the council priorities, and that I appreciate very much. I think when we started talking about City Hall versus Community Center, and we said we don't know if people want those combined or whatever that else was, I would say therefore the project is incomplete, and yet there is a value on it. And so we do need to find out what the public wants, in particular with a community center. I'm not going to disagree with anything you said about the City Hall. It is in a case that it needs big repairs. the community center needs more repairs, but we don't know what the people want for a community center. And so we did put a name on it, and I think half of the name is very clear. I think it got cloudy when we didn't know what to do with a community center. But there is a value on it. So I would argue it's perhaps the same rope. But now that we have a plan.
Is that a new rope?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna let that go too. I just came from the rodeo. I saw lots of roping. But I would say if there's a plan where we're going to do some meaningful engagement, and when I say meaningful engagement, that's not where we talk at some service clubs about it. And I mean, that's part of the process, but we need to hear survey from the general population that's going to use the community center. And what do they want in a community center? I like the fact I heard from the city administrator before, he's getting some options together of where things can go. But what's wrong with surveying the people of Willmar and what they want? And if they don't want a community center, then we won't have a community center. But the fact is, we don't know. And it's difficult when there's a price tag on something that we do not know yet. And so I'm comfortable if we're going to be doing some kind of engagement that way, because the traditional way of just talking to select folks is not adequate in this regard.
And I did talk with Mr. Bruce Miles today, who's done some of our retreats, and asked him, and he and the administrator are playing phone tag today, from my understanding, try to get him to come and possibly help with facilitating that community conversation. So, yeah. Councilmember Osmus.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that the budget that you put together is comprehensive and exciting, and I feel that the 8.1 million or whatever was in there for the capital improvements towards a city hall and a community center is timely, because we're at a point now also with the community center where the budget was increased to possibly be able to put an employee out there that can now advocate for the community center. It hasn't been there for many years. I don't feel like anybody is championing that idea and talking with the people out there. I feel like that's going to be a better conduit to those discussions, and that person will help with that conversation when we get to having the community meetings. But we have to do something with that community center, and we've been kicking that can down the road for a lot of years. And so when I look at some of the other improvements that have happened, I'm new on the council, and I look at some of the other things that have happened over the years, and again, like we mentioned earlier, those surpluses have been there years before when nothing was done with that building. And now the city hall has deteriorated to like a very huge disrepair. The elevator wasn't working last week when we were there. You had the flood damage that came in. Something has to be done with that. So if it's not this year, and if you don't put the money in there to start that conversation, I don't know how else that process can start.
Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We definitely need the public involved in this. If you've been to the community center, which is used, I'm going to say primarily by seniors, the numbers out there in seniors is half of what it was 5-6 years ago. And it's dwindling. And they're wondering, why aren't these 65-year-old and older people joining and coming out? It's not being used by the seniors as much. So we need to have that conversation about how it's going to be used and do we need it? I know it's used by other entities. I mean, there's a lot of entertainment out there and cultural dances and get-togethers. But we need to have that conversation before we put some money into it. I mean, I agree with what everybody's saying, but why would you dedicate this money to it in capital improvement when we haven't had those conversations? We don't know what it's going to look like or what it should look like. But the numbers are really, really going down out there.
Councilmember Nelson.
Just to clarify, with serving on the Community and Rec Board, I think community center means different things to different people. It doesn't mean necessarily just the senior center. And I think that's part of why the community needs to be engaged as to where it needs to be, who's going to use it, what programs, what facilities it needs to be. So The second part of that is I just want to clarify, the money is not in the budget to do this project. It's listed on the CIP correctly, but there is no cash dedicated to it. If we were to move ahead with the project, it would be through bonding or some other method. So the fact that it's in the it's there, but we are not spending the cash dollars that are in the budget, correct?
Correct.
That is correct. We would come back to the council for approval on that funding. If I may, Mayor, can I make one comment? And I'll keep it brief.
Doesn't look like, yes, go ahead. Just don't muddy the waters.
I'm
Don't
not
have to get
going
into
to
the vote.
muddy the water, but I will say that I've been building projects for 17 years. And, you know, when you say you're going to build a golf course, everybody knows that's 18 holes. But some people might argue, no, that's a 9-hole course. I've built city halls. I've built water parks. I've built hospitals, parking lots, water projects, electrical projects, and so on. And some of those are community centers. And you're right. And as I've explained, you do get community input on all of those projects. And I have done that over the years. But you don't go to the community first and say, what kind of water park do you want? What kind of hospital do you want? And the first question out of their mouth is, well, how much money are we spending? How big can I make it? How small can I make it? Where's it going to be? Why did you bring this to me when you don't even have those questions answered? And that's an overriding rule that I've seen over the last decade. So you have to have those parameters set up so that when you go to the public, they understand we're looking at doing a community center. Here's what we're thinking about. Here's 3 different options where we might put it in the city. Which one do you prefer? We're thinking about spending this amount of money. If you spend this amount of money, then you can have these type of facilities. If you spend this amount, then you can have this amount. Which one do you prefer? You speed up the process a lot further, and you can engage the public in a productive way. And that's the process that I've done on numerous projects, and these are usually run and organized by the engineers and the architects that do the actual designs. And you can have the construction people. But as we go forward, if we're going to do a city hall and a civic center, community center for this community, we will do that process. And everyone in this room and everyone at home will have an opportunity to provide the input. But we want to start with some parameters to the public. You don't go just open-ended with no parameters on the budget, the scope, or the place. But if we can't answer those questions, then we shouldn't go forward with the project, in my opinion. That's what I wanted to say.
Councilmember Nelson.
You just spoke to what I'm afraid of. There's a fundamental difference between City Hall and the community center. There are people who want to see the community center out at the Civic Center. There are people who want to see the community center right where it's at. But until we know what the community wants to do in the community center, we shouldn't be planning the community center. And so if we're going to come forward with the proposals and then ask the community, that to me is putting the cart before the horse as it relates to the community center. City Hall is different, but the community center is different in its concept. And so I struggle with that. If that's what we're going to do, then no, I don't support this budget. But if we're going to engage the community, because maybe the right thing to do is to find more money to do it the right way than to spend some money and end up with something that no one uses. So your philosophy on that for the community center is different than what I'm thinking. I mean, I'm just one person, but I do believe this community wants to be engaged as to what they want and what they need.
So to move the budget forward, the motion on the table is to approve a budget of $46,216,588. Would someone like to make a motion to remove the city hall and the community center from the budget consideration and bring it back at a later time? We certainly can do that.
I will move that, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. What I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to get the budget adopted. If we're hung up on the fact of the two projects in there. Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment. In the past, when I've opposed some capital improvements that were in the CIP, I always heard, it's in the CIP. We're going to do it. That's one of my concerns here. I really think we should pull it and discuss it with the public. We can always present it. We can always present it in bond form. It doesn't have to be in a budget. We can have a discussion with the public and then say, do you want to do this project? What should it look like? And then we'll find out what it's going to cost. We don't have to, it doesn't have to be in the CIP. It does not have to be there. If June comes and we think we should be doing a community center, we can say, okay, let's get to work on it, and we can bond for it, and if we have the public support for what it is and what it's going to look like and how much it's going to cost, we'll do it. City council can do that.
Councilmember Osmus.
Thank you, Mayor. My feeling is, we know we need these projects. It doesn't make any sense to me to delay it any further. We also have some opportunity at some options of where it could be because of some property that is possibly available. Because we drug our feet and didn't move forward, I would hate to lose out on some of those opportunities. I just don't want to see us drag this out when it's things we know have to get done. And it starts with having it in the budget and moving forward with it and taking action on it. And I think that's what we need to do, start getting things done.
Councilmember Alvarado, followed by Councilmember Christensen.
I like what Mr. Holland had to say. I think it's important to have a vision to start. That doesn't mean that that's going to be the plan, but I think we need to have a starting point. And I agree with Councilmember Osmus. And this has been, our buildings are going into decay. We've had money set aside for a long time and it hasn't been used. Now it's come to task and we have to move forward. We have to put the idea out there, present it to the public, let them get involved, and make it happen. I think our city, our people want to have quality buildings for our employees. I think they want to be proud of our city hall. I believe we have to go with the Councilmember Osmus's idea, keep it in the budget, open it up for discussion with a vision, and then adjust it there. We're not saying that this is the way it's going to be, but this is a starting point. I believe we have to keep it in the budget moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, I'm trying to move us to a decision here, so Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Once again, the council can do this anytime they want. It doesn't have to be in the CIP. But if we've had some suggestions of offers on property, I haven't heard about it. I don't know about it. I don't know how Councilor Osmus has. I know nothing about it. Hasn't been presented to me.
We as a council toured the building, and then we made a motion for a right of first refusal.
She mentioned some land available.
I believe that's what you're-
Property, land,
Okay.
okay.
Because
You
you're
were
talking
with
about
on the tour.
Okay, if that's the one you're talking about, because I thought there was several options that were brought up earlier by, I think, Ike.
Yeah, he said he's going to bring several options. We have not looked at several options. We've
Okay.
only looked at the one property.
So we're putting money in there before we look at the other options. I still think we should pull it, because we can do this anytime we want. It's not like we're delaying it.
Okay.
It can be done anytime. Thank you.
Councilmember Meske, followed by Nelson. And again, I'm trying to move us to a vote here.
The conversation's funny because it's the same result no matter what we do. Just so you understand. Because this is going to be bonded dollars, so they can be done anytime. And we're all saying the same thing, is that we're not going to approve it unless they engage the public. And whether you want it in the budget or not, it really doesn't matter, because this is one of the council's priorities. And so I think we're all on the same page. It's just a matter of whether you want it in the budget first or not, because it really isn't in the budget, because it's going to be paid for by bonding anyway. So I vote for both of them, both proposals. But, all right. Sorry.
Councilmember Nelson.
Probably similar, but I had no intentions of pulling it. I just wanted reassurance that we're going to engage the community before we make decisions. And I didn't feel that in that statement. City Hall's one thing, community center's another. So I agree with Councilmember Meske. It probably doesn't matter whether it's in there or not. I just want the community to know that we're not going to do something without engaging them. Don't bring proposal 1, 2, 3, because maybe proposal 4 is the right one. I don't know how we do that, but that's my concern, that we have a process in place to engage the community with what the community wants for the future.
Seeing no further discussion, roll call. I'm sorry. All in favor of the amendment to pull City Hall and the community center from the budget, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call.
Councilmember Osmus,
Nay.
Meske,
No.
Fagerly,
Aye.
Nelson,
No,
Christensen,
Aye.
Schwantes,
No.
Alvarado.
No.
2 ayes, 5 nays.
That motion fails. Next, we have a resolution on the floor that includes the 2018 budget of $46,216,588. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Meske,
Aye.
Fagerly,
Aye.
Nelson,
aye.
Christensen,
No.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
6 ayes, 1 nay.
And that resolution passes. Next, we'll have a presentation from Donna Boonstra in regards to support for funding Minnesota State Highway 23 as a corridor of commerce. Ms. Boonstra.
Thank you, Mayor. When I was sitting down, I could see my notes just fine. When I stand up, I can't, so excuse me.
Have to have those cheaters, right?
These are actually prescription glasses. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Highway 23 Coalition was organized to raise awareness and show support for the improvements along the corridor from Marshall to Interstate 94. However, the initial emphasis is completing the conversion of the gaps between New London and Richmond from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. Coalition members currently consist of nearly, I think we're over 40 businesses, at least 9 cities, 4 counties, 3 townships, 9 organizations and individuals from St. Cloud to Marshall. And we expect the list to continue to grow. Some of the coalition members already have a 4-lane access and recognize the benefits of completing the project. So in Candioi County, the South Gap is from New London and Paynesville, and in Stearns County, the North Gap is from Paynesville to Richmond. The coalition, the Highway 23 Coalition, will be applying for Corridors of Commerce funds during the next project selection period that will open on January 15th, 2018. And one requirement in the selection process is that the affected jurisdictions within the project area must provide resolutions of support. As one of the impacted jurisdictions, the Highway 23 Coalition respectfully requests that you provide a resolution in support of both projects. The proposed resolutions for each gap were included in your packets. So,
Thank you.
do you vote on that now, or do you?
Yeah, we'll vote on it now.
Okay.
Right. So if you can stand for questions, if there's any questions from council.
I-
So we have 2 supporting documents. One is for the North Gap, which is the first one we'll vote on, and that's the one from from Paynesville to
Richmond.
Richmond. and that's 8.7 miles. And we'll do these separately in case the council only wants to support one of them or the other. The thing that I really find encouraging on the Highway 23 Coalition is that we have support all the way from Stearns County all the way down to Marshall. That people have climbed on board and said, yeah, we need to make this happen. And of course, we all know that we want that 4-lane all the way from Duluth to Sioux Falls, but how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And this is what we're going to try to do tonight, is we're going to try to take 2 bites out of it and say, let's fill that north gap. Now, as additional information, there was an email that I received late this afternoon about an email of support also to send to Paul Whitteman, and I will be forwarding that to all the council after the meeting tonight. So if you want to send that email of support to Mr. Whitteman, that would help as well. So is there someone to introduce the support for funds for the 8.7 miles from Paynesville to Richmond?
I'll enter that.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So you're not asking for any money from us?
I'm
this time?
Not this one at all.
Just support.
Just support. Right.
Not yet.
Correct. As Councilmember Christensen said, not yet. Anyways, so seeing and hearing no additional discussion, roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly,
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Maskey.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. The next is supporting funds for the 7.4 miles from New London to Paynesville.
I'll enter that.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to support the funds for the 7.4 miles between between New London and Paynesville, called the South Gap. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Maskey.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
And that resolution passes as well. So we passed both the resolutions, and I know you need them quickly, and I know that they are prepared, and I'll stop down by City Hall tomorrow and we'll get them signed.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for all the work you're doing helping with this project, Donna. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's a critical piece of infrastructure that we need for our community.
Yes, it is.
Thank you so much.
Can I
Nick?
add something?
I'm sorry, Councilmember Fagerly.
Mid-Minnesota Commission just supported this too, but then Olivia to Glencoe, they're in on it too, so we'll be battling them, Highway 212.
Highway 2.
Oh, there's several highways that want this,
Yeah,
want this fund, so.
Yeah.
But the one piece about the email that Mayor Calvin mentioned is the Met Council is trying to take some of our, see, it's set up for 50% in Greater Minnesota and 50% in the metro area. And the commission is trying to get it 70-30, 70 towards the metro and 30 for Greater Minnesota. So that's why we need you to respond to Patrick Wiedemann and give your comments, because they already have given their comments and they've already swayed the commission. So we need Greater Minnesota to make comments.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great evening. Next, we have presentation of new firefighters, Chief Frank Hansen. I bet you guys didn't realize you were going to be here that long, did you?
I told them it was just going to be a couple minutes and they could go, so. Mr.
Kind
Mayor,
of like
members,
making sausage. It's not fun to watch, but it's good when you get done.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, tonight I'm here to introduce our two newest firefighters to the city of Willmar. On my right, we have Corey Thorson. Corey was a firefighter in Spicer for 6 years prior to coming here. He's moved closer to Willmar, so he was able to get on the department here. And then we have, to my left, we have Matt Grave, who is from Redwood Falls and spent 20 years down there on the fire department, and is gracious enough once he moved up here to give us his service up here as well. So I just want to introduce them to you tonight, and that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Of course, I do have to make a couple comments. So, both Redwood Falls and Spicer, I do not believe, belong to the Statewide Fire Association. And so this is a benefit that we have to our firefighters, which gives us portability so that if both Redwood Falls and Spicer were involved in the statewide fire pension, their pensions would have followed them here. So this is a benefit we offer to our firefighters in Wilmer. Another thing that you guys need to realize is that between $54,000 and $56,000 a year you save our taxpayers by being paid on-call firefighters. So as we were talking budget numbers, what you do for us really impacts our budget. It makes a big difference. And we really appreciate you giving of your time, talents, and treasures. And part of those treasures are your time. And we really do appreciate that. And Chief Hansen, thanks for your leadership in bringing them to us today. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Be safe. Next, we have the City Council Open Forum. And before we go into open forum, I'd like to make a few comments. Our open forum is here for the citizens of Wilmer to freely approach the council and discuss things going on in our community. It's a valued service that we give to our citizens, and it's something that the council doesn't take lightly. We value the input that you share with us, and I try to remain as neutral as I can, and at times people say I'm not quite as neutral as I think I am. So my intent is to be neutral during this time. But our open forum is here so the public has the opportunity to speak to the council about Wilmer issues and Wilmer concerns. When you do approach the council, please be respectful and decent when making your comments. I think that's something we can ask of you. I know each of you know what that means to be respectful and decent. So with that, we'll go to the open forum. 2 weeks ago, I adjusted from the sign-up list and moved names up and down. That will not be my practice in the future. I will take from the top of the list and go down. If you wish not to speak, you'll be passed over, and we'll go to the next individual on the list. So I'm going to have trouble with names tonight, so I apologize ahead of time, and I might just kind of like shorten some of those up. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for the council for having the open forum. Again, our council will not respond back to you. We ask you to address the council table. Do not address people in the audience. Your comments are to the council. So first we have Hamdi. And please state your name, address, and phone number for the record. You want to pull the mic down?
Yeah.
Thank you.
My name is Hamdi Kosar. My phone number is 612-407-9140, and the address that I reside is 1406 Gorton Avenue, Northwest, Wilmer, Minnesota. You can see.
Thank you.
Like I said, my name is Hamdi. I am the first generation author. I would like to say that in terms of when people talk about immigrant not doing that much and just taking things away from them, such as taking the downtown, taking America, you know. And I think as a growing up here, I came here when I was 12 years old. And the first state that we came was Arizona. And it wasn't that much of diverse. I was the only Somali covered girl in that school, which was hard for me to adopt and make new friends. Even though there was a couple Hispanic students and Black African students too. And the first day when I came to the school, the class, the teacher asked, who is going to sit with Hamdi, right? And the first person that raised their hand was one girl that was, her background was African American. And at that time, I didn't know, right? I was 6th grade. But then when I was sitting down, she said, finally, someone that looked like us. So I did not get that comment that back then. But when I look at it, is she must have thought that, you know, we were same culture. Just, you know, I was just covering up. Even though they made me feel comfortable coming to a new country, I do appreciate them for, you know, what they have done, showing me to the class, you know, showing me that, you know, that I'm not different from them. But as we moved from Arizona, we came to different communities and different counties, such as Faribault. And when I came to Faribault, there was not that much diverse too. There was so much hate between students. You know, comments were made about go back to your country, you don't belong here. When you make that comment to someone that's coming now, what are you gonna, you know, what are your thoughts that person will end up in the future? And I think the comments are coming from what kids hear from parents. Right? If you're talking about the whole time 24-hour, you know, how black are different from white, then I think the kids will adapt and take that to the school. And it was really hard for me to go to school. Every day I was actually, every day I was actually told to go back to your country, you don't belong here. So I wanted to...
Thank you for your comments.
Okay.
Thank you. I neglected to say you have 3 minutes and the timer is off to your side, so I apologize for that. Next, Shafia. Like I said, I was going to have trouble with names tonight, so. And again, name and address and phone number for the record, please.
My name is Shafia Abdullahi. My address is 1401 19th Avenue South. Do I really have to give up my phone number?
Yes, you do. Well, you don't need to know. We have it for the record.
Okay, awesome. Good evening, everybody. My name is Shafia Abdullahi. I reside at 1401 19th Avenue. Most of you has heard or seen the City Council meeting last week video circulating on the social media, and I was shocked to hear a comment that was made about the Somali community, sentimental, shared by many of our Wilmer community. Let me address some of the misconception in surrounding immigrants. Are immigrants burden, draining resources, or contributing to the economy? I have 2 jobs and I'm a single mother. Contrary to some, I'm not the exception of the majority of Somalians working long hours to provide for their families, own their businesses, and work at a professional setting. Without a doubt, we are an asset to Wilmer's thriving economy. Case in point, take a walk in Wilmer community and you will see many businesses owned by Somali entrepreneurs and other minorities. This beautiful country was built by immigrants searching for better lives and escaping from religion persecutions. Our search for better life is not different from any of our founding fathers, and we respect the rules of the law as any of other American citizens. We can't allow for Wilmer to be a fertile ground for hate and division. It is time for our community to unite against any bigotry and speeches filled with hate. Let's understand and learn from each other and celebrate our differences. I understand the fear of the unknown and the changes surrounding the Wilmer area, but that's what makes us unique by having a rich, diverse community. We are different, and we cannot be divided. As we are fighting the same battle in terms of providing for our families and raising our children in a safe environment. Let's fight the misconception and fear with dialogue, mutual understanding, and respecting others' values. I wanted to share a quote from Dr. King. I refuse to accept the view that mankind is so tragically bound to the startless midnight of racism and war that bright daybreak of peace and brotherhood can never become a reality. I believe in unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word. So my last comment would be for you, sir. Liking or reposting comments filled with hatred is basically supporting the ideology. I'm a firm believer of our First Amendment, or one of our amendments of freedom of speech, but that comes with responsibilities when you are a public servant. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your comments. Abdi Ahmedid. I know I really killed your name.
Mr. Mayor,
Name and address, please.
yeah, my address is, first of all, my name is Abdurrahman Ahmed, and my address is 415 Avenue Southwest. First of all, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and members of the community, good evening. The first thing I would like to address is, first of all, safety issues when you're driving the roads. Some of the times you will see some intersections that don't have stop signs. So that is one thing. The second thing is, do you have a policy in place when someone, let's say for example, likes a page that is full of bigotry or maybe sometimes very discriminatory? So if a council member does that, what is the policy in place? That is one of the things I would like to say. And the other thing I would like to use my 3 minutes for very effectively is it's very irresponsible and very demeaning and embarrassing for a leader some of the times to use, or maybe some of the times to encourage any bigotry or discriminatory things. Because even me, as I'm not a leader, I'm not a leader, as you can see. But some of the times, if you are a leader, everything, your private life and your public life matters, and everything you do is you're very accountable for that. So some people would say that Mr. Christensen doesn't, encourage racism, or he doesn't, allow those kind of values. But if you like a page of someone who does that, you have the same value and the same thing with the person who posts that thing. So, or any type of bigoted or discriminatory post, that it reveals the true nature and beliefs of the individual who likes it and the individual who posts it. So, the U.S. has always been a nation of immigrants, and the Somalis, Hispanics, and all immigrant people are doctors. Some of them are individuals who are, teachers, nurses, and executive directors, supervisors, cashiers, policemen and women, and they serve in the military as well as we speak, and they're very active in the military as well. They are dying for the cause of this country, and they stand with the constitution of this country says. So to say some people, they have a low IQ on this kind of things, every community has, a very good people and a bad people. So what I want to say is we should have a people and leaders who can stand up for what we believe in as a country. And I think it's very unfortunate some of the times, to go back to the Plessy and Ferguson issues, to go back to the Chinese exclusive acts and all the things, Islamophobia and all those kind of discriminatory issues we are facing. I think it's very unfortunate to go back to those dark history. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment. Abdullahi O. Name and address, phone number for the record.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. My name is Abdullahi Olo, 505 28th Avenue Southwest. This is what I just moved into 2 days ago. So I would like to thank all the council members and the public that are here tonight. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the opportunity to express ourselves and giving us this forum. I would like to comment to a few things about some of the things that I've touched myself after I have read some of the comments and posts that have been in the social media that the council member Ron Christensen have liked and did not denounce. I'm a father raising 2 kids and expecting a 3rd one, and this is where I would love to see them grow and play and work and have future. And I would not want to see hate triumph over love, but I would rather see the opposite, where love is the place where people run to and not hate. I don't want that to be definitely an attribute that we could see from a leader in this community. But in the same token, I would like to recognize and acknowledge the great leaders and citizens of this beautiful city. We might have few individuals in this town that may not want to wake up to the reality of some things, but I have to say Some of the things that was mentioned in that comment had to do with the immigrants or the Somalis having low IQ. And I asked myself, I thought IQs help with things like memory. So what happens to our memory when it comes to that? Our great-grandpas, for some of you, might have been here as immigrants. Have we forgotten them? These same comments, I would say, would also apply to them. All of us are here by legal means, and we really want to see great leaders respecting all that diversity. But what have our council member Ron Christensen done as a positive engagement towards this community instead? I want to know that. And I would like to thank everybody again. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for your comments. Ben Larson. Name and address for the record.
Ben Larson, 1412 6th Street Southwest, 320-212-2401. So I'm here for a few reasons tonight. My first reason is that I need to ensure that my son, who is Mexican-American, 4 months old, is going to grow up in a city where the leaders don't discriminate against him. My second reason is that I'm disappointed. I'm an optimist. I figured that if I gave Ron a path to reconciliation, that he would take it. I mean, man, all you had to do was say you were sorry. Instead, we get silence for 2 weeks. You say absolutely nothing. And silence to me says a lot. It says that you support racism and Islamophobia in those posts. And that hurts this community. Now as a community, we need to do a few different things. We need to pick up the pieces that Ron has broke, because he fails to acknowledge that he broke those pieces. We do that by taking positive steps forward, and we need to decide how that looks. The second step that I'm seeing tonight is we need to start calling racism and Islamophobia what it is. It should not be in any leaders in this community. And lastly, Ron, you need to resign. When you support bigotry and ignorance and racist lies, they have no part in the city leadership, so please resign. Thanks.
Next, Maria Larson. Is it Maria Larson?
All right, so Maria Larson, 1412 6th Street Southwest.
I'm going to pull that down just a little bit. There you go.
Okay, phone number 320. Oh, okay. So I'm Maria Larson. My message is in regard to Ron Christensen's support of racism. I am a second-generation immigrant. I am Mexican-American, and I've lived in this community my whole life. I am not crime or filth-ridden. I've never committed a crime. I've never even gotten a speeding ticket. I'm not filthy. I have perfectly good hygiene. I've actually never had a cavity myself. So I'm not illiterate, as I have a college degree, and I'm also bilingual. I started my own business at the age of 20, and as far as I know, my IQ is not low. If you support racism and hate, I don't see how you could support my family and other members in this community. So I would ask for your resignation, Mr. Christensen. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, Sue Quist.
Mr. Mayor, I hate to interject, and I know I'm not in front of the list. Would it be fair for the council and the other paid members of these lower staff to give their addresses and their own phone numbers? People are asking other people to.
All right, it's on public record. Sue Quist.
Sue Quist, 1451 Hanson Drive, Southwest, Wilmer, Minnesota. Everyone living in America, whatever race, religion, sexual identity, income, and social status, should be held accountable to the law of the land, the U.S. Constitution. I understand and appreciate people seeking opportunities for a better life in America, as my mother immigrated from Germany after World War II. So I do empathize with Ben and Maria Larson's family. No matter what the circumstances that led to the deportation of Maria's dad to Mexico, it must have been very difficult for her family. That being said, I understand, but don't agree with Ben's personal bias. Ben quickly, and it sounds like many of you tonight, judged and called a councilman a racist based on him liking, not commenting on a Facebook. That is ludicrous and slanderous. Perhaps the councilman liked the courage of his constituent, a 90-year-old woman who was bound to a wheelchair who was addressing a controversial issue. Or maybe he liked one statement of her post. The point being, Ben doesn't know, and it was inappropriate for him to get at a person based on his bias. It is especially disheartening as Ben is on the City of Willmar Human Rights Commission. At the last public forum, Ben wore a T-shirt with the picture of a well-known liberal socialist, Bernie Sanders. With this long-term and revered councilman, Ron Christensen, being recognized and valued as a fiscal and social Christian conservative, is Ben's political and partisan agenda at play here? If so, it is inappropriate, especially since he is a member of the Human Rights Commission. One that is perfectly transparent is Ben's unmerited negative public comments have escalated fear and division in our community, as we've heard tonight. As a legal citizen of the City of Willmar for 38 years and a resident of Ward 2, Precinct 2, with the majority of my neighbors, we elected Ron Christensen as our councilman, and we want him to continue his public service. However, Ben Larson should immediately resign as a member of the City of Willmar Human Rights Commission, as his judgment is questionable. Thank you, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you for your comments. Next, Doreen Magnuson. I think that's Magnuson.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Excuse me, I'm hoarse. I had the privilege of meeting Ben Larson
Address, please.
and his wife
Doreen,
a couple weeks ago.
Doreen, could you give us your address, please?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Doreen Magnuson, 712 13th Street Southwest. And the reason that we met was I went with my sister-in-law. Ron is my brother. I'm the oldest of 7 children. If anybody knows Ron, other than our mother that had passed away, I do. But first of all, I don't know, and if I may turn my head, I don't know really, Ben, what your agenda is. You
Ma'am?
You had talked about your son, and
You have to address the council.
okay, I'm sorry. He had talked about his son, and he also had heard me make a comment about, I know a young boy that got stabbed at the St. Cloud Mall. His comment was, oh, really? And I got to thinking, Ben, and we had a very nice visit. But as I look at the situation of the council and some of the council members, I am watching my brother and his family, an extended family, going through a lot from the last episode that was wrong. Now, I don't know if Ben is in this alone or if he is. I know he's a very strong liberal, because if I ask him a question, he'll always say, what do you think? I watched the council meeting 2 weeks ago, and there were 3 people speaking, an attorney, a retired attorney, a Vietnam vet, and there was another gentleman. And we are from a very large military family. Ron, how many on the panel have served in the military besides my brother Ron? Okay, you have. Okay, congratulations and thank you for your service. My husband gave 7 years. My father gave 4 years. I had 2 uncles that were in World War II and the Korean War. And when I look back at the people who are coming, and God bless them, they need to come. Do they realize the wonderful freedom that we have in our country because of our military people? I do not think we give enough service to our military. We need to say thank you when we run into, when was the last time you people thanked a vet for his service?
Thank you for your comments.
Yes.
Next on the agenda, we have the Eagle Lake Sanitary Sewer System discussion. And I got to find out where we are on the agenda here.
Number 12.
Number 11. 12, yes.
Oh, no.
The updated 12. So, for discussion this evening, a month ago, we had a discussion from Mike Gerbitz from Donahue and Associates and Larry Kleindahl and
Mr. Mayor, there was one person on the list, Bethany.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I crossed you off, Beth. You're going to have to help me with your last name. It looks like Luma? Lumania? Beth Lumania? I apologize.
Okay.
Name and address for the record, please.
Beth Umania, 1419 Candy High Avenue, Southwest Wilmer. I'm here to discuss the city ordinance 15-139 and 1555, which is designated truck routes. We own a small business. It's a trucking company. We have one truck weighing 16,000 pounds or 8 tons with 3 axles. Most roads in Wilmer are 5 tons per axle, and ours is 2.6 tons per axle. We have lived in our house for 8 years. In the last 5 years, we've been bringing our semi home to do maintenance on it or to plug it in for the winter months so it starts on cold days, usually from November to March. We've never had a complaint. And before we started doing this, we did ask our neighbors, and they were okay with the situation. It was brought to our attention about a month ago from an officer that we violated this ordinance. Again, we have had no complaints, and we haven't been cited for a violation. We only bring the tractor home, not the trailer, to do maintenance to keep our costs down on repairs because we are a small business. We keep it plugged in so it starts, and that cuts down on costs as well. We are asking to be considered for a truck delivery route or permission to bring our truck to the house. Kennedy Elementary receives deliveries with loaded trucks on Candy High Avenue, as well as the Jefferson Learning Center. My understanding is that we're not zoned for commercial vehicles, but others use both 15th Street and Candy High with commercial vehicles. There's a semi that parks on 15th Street that's 2 blocks north of Wilmer Avenue, and that sits pretty much all winter long throughout the evenings. There's also another semi that sits on the street of, right across from St. Mary's on the intersection of 11th Street and Candy High, also all during the night during winter months. Our semi is parked in our driveway. We are asking for permission or direction on how do we continue to bring our truck home, being that we are a small business and this is our only form of income, and it would be a great strain on us if we would have to hire out for maintenance and repairs.
Thank you. Staff has your information, and they'll get back with you. Thank you for your comments. I apologize for missing you in your comments. Next, we have the Eagle Lake Sanitary System discussion. We had a conversation in regards to this 2 meetings ago, about a month ago. And then at our work session, we talked about it a little bit this evening. What I would like the council to consider is to make a motion to have the staff work with Candy County to bring back an agreement to take over the ownership and maintenance of the Eagle Lake Sanitary Sewer System in its totality. Currently, that is done by Candy County and the City of Wilmer. If an expense is under $500, the City of Wilmer pays the expense. If it's over $500, then the county pays the expense. There's about $319,000 worth of income fees that are collected for this. $35,000 of those remain with Candy County for their services and their management and oversight. So this has been brought to us. There's an agreement in place that expired, I believe it's 3 years ago now. And we need to give clear direction to the Eagle Lake Sanitary Board so that they know that they're going to have services that are provided. The financials were all included in the report that we had a month ago. And additionally, I had asked the question on what it would cost to have a flow meter put in pump station, lift station number 7. And that cost would be about $55,000. At this point, I would not be recommending that because that's an added expense that really isn't needed at this point. If there becomes a problem, we can certainly do that in the future. So what I'd request from the council is a motion to direct staff to work with Candiway County and our city attorney to work on an agreement to bring back for ownership of the Eagle Lake Sanitary Sewer System.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve a motion to have staff work on the Eagle Lake Sanitary Sewer System. Discussion. Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You're also going to discuss dollars and cents, correct? What could be, should be, and would be. Okay, thank you.
Correct. Staff would be looking at the funds. The fees for 2018 will not change. 2018 are set because the fees are collected through the taxes, and those tax statements have already been sent. If we continue with this arrangement, Candiway County is willing to continue providing that service at no charge for us.
So they will do the billing?
So they will do if we leave it on the taxes, the way it is currently, they will collect those taxes and then remit those back to us twice a year.
Okay.
Correct. Councilmember Nelson.
Just a question, so what we're asking staff to do is to work with the parameters that were laid out at the previous meeting to come back with agreement that reflects those? Is that what you're saying?
Correct, yes. They would meet with Candiway County staff, meet with Eagle Lake staff, and get an agreement to bring back, and then where those funds would go as well. If you remember, it's about $22,000 a year it takes to operate the system. We collect, again, that approximately $285,000. And so they would bring all those recommendations, all the financials, all of that would come back to us. And then, in talking with the city attorney earlier today, I believe it would take an ordinance during the break between the work session and the council meeting. I did talk with the people from Eagle Lake, and they do not own any property. So Councilmember Christensen mentioned that during the meeting, the work session, of what property they own. Well, they told me they don't own any property. So the transfer of ownership of property would be correct, what Councilmember Christensen said during the work session. Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So does each individual place have a water meter now?
No.
Okay, because that's people on George Lake, Ness Lake, Diamond that are hooked into the county. They have water meters, and they're billed on the usage of their water that flows, well, any usage of their well water, they're charged.
Right, actually, I talked to the mayor of Spicer, Denny Baker, and they actually are measuring the amount of electricity that goes through the pump, is what they're doing, is what I was told. And that's how they determine how much water is pumped.
I don't think that's what they do on Diamond Lake. I'll have to look at the bill.
I'm not sure.
You're allowed to use so much, and then you're charged so much.
Okay.
And then over that, you're charged more.
And that might
The
be
water
different for
flow.
there.
Yeah.
Councilmember Meske.
No.
Oh, you're just waving to me tonight?
Swinging a rope.
Oh, he's saying move along?
Yeah.
Additional discussion. I'm trying to bring some levity to the meeting this evening, so. And the best guy to do that with is Councilmember Meske. Additional discussion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Next is consideration of a resolution amending.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Christensen.
you had a hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I asked you if you wanted to speak. You said no, so Mr. Chuck Hoppert. Yeah.
I'm a man, I got chances to change my mind, right?
Exactly.
I'm Chuck Hoppert, I'm president of Eagle Lake Association. And on behalf of the Eagle Lake Association, I want to thank you guys for the trouble and the time that you're putting in to try to get this ironed out. And we have our annual meeting coming up the first part of January, and we will have a lot of happy people. So I thank you again and have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Chuck. Next is consideration of a resolution amending resolution number 17-131, which was a typo. Our city attorney, Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This resolution before you is really just a matter of housekeeping. It was brought to my attention that we had an erroneous reference to the city charter in the resolution that approved the hospital affiliation. I inverted two numbers. I referred to section 4.08, which does not exist. I meant 4.02 subdivision 8. This resolution would make that correction, and it would then be appended to resolution 17-131 in the city's records so that there would be no confusion going forward. I'd recommend that the council approve the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the resolution amending resolution number 17-131. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Christensen.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Metzke.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution does pass. Next is consideration to introduce an ordinance to rezone general business to R2. Mr. Peterson, our Planning Development Director.
Mayor Kelvin, members of the council, the city received a request from All Star Investments to rezone their office property on East Litchfield Avenue from general business to R2. The property was originally residential, but about 10 years when they purchased it and decided they wanted to use it for their office space, they rezoned it at that point. The neighborhood is still predominantly residential to the east and to the south. And the Planning Commission considered it and determined that because there was so little done to the house when they converted it to offices, that it made sense to put it back on the market as a residential property. That being said, the Planning Commission approved the rezoning request and forwarded it to the council. I'd recommend that the council introduce the ordinance for the rezoning and to conduct the hearing at the next council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to introduce an ordinance for public hearing at the January 8th meeting to rezone said properties. Discussion. Roll call. I'm sorry. Roll call.
Councilmember Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Metzke.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Next is consideration of an ordinance final plat for his first edition. Mr. Peterson.
Mayor Kelvin, members of the council, the city had been provided with a final plat for the HIS First Edition. That's a property on South First Street being developed by Dan Getzman and is the site of the new Dairy Queen. The preliminary plat contained a number of conditions that have all been addressed by Mr. Getzman on the final plat, and it's a recommendation of staff that the final plat be filed for record following approval by the council.
I'll move to approve the final plat as presented, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the final plat for his first edition final plat. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Metzke.
Aye.
Fagerly. Nelson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes as well. Next is consideration for a resolution for acknowledgement of Robbins Island Destination Playground donation. Mr. Scott, our city attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. As you have had a few times recently, there's a resolution before you accepting a donation in support of the Robbins Island Destination Playground project. This resolution is actually just for in-kind services. I shouldn't say just. It's for very valuable in-kind services. There is no cash donation being accepted at this time, however. The three vendors whose in-kind services and materials donations you're accepting are listed on Exhibit A to the resolution. They are David Monson, Stacy's Nursery, Lake Country Fireplace and Exteriors. And of course, this is all coordinated by the Wilmer Area Community Foundation. The recommendation is that you approve this resolution accepting the donation. It does need to pass by a 2/3 majority of the full council, so 6 votes are needed.
Motion to approve and
Second?
acknowledge.
Motion made and seconded to acknowledge the receipt of the in-kind donations. Discussion. My understanding is this is the last one that'll be coming, is that correct?
Maybe.
I believe, Mayor, I saw that, yes, and I see some heads nodding. I think this is the last resolution.
Okay, so again, this was a very good community project and a tremendous addition to our community. And this is something that we had in our park plan, and a much smaller playground than what this ends up being. And the advantage of this is that the cost to the taxpayer is this is a donation from the community to the taxpayers. So this is a huge community project in the neighborhood of $641,000 plus the in-kind donations, probably a valuation of well over $1 million. So this is a very great day for the city of Willmar. Project that myself and many of you sitting at this table worked diligently on, and thank you all for your hard work. So with that, discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Osmus.
Aye.
Maskey.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
And that resolution passes. Next, we have announcement of council meeting dates in January. The city charter tells us the date during an election year or following an election year when the meeting has to be held, but it's silent for the meeting in a non-election year. So with that, I'll turn it over to our city clerk, Ms. Thompson.
Per the request by Mayor Calvin that the council meetings for January of 2018 be held, the council meetings to be held on January 8th and 16th. So those dates will be changed, off from our normal first and third Mondays. The council meetings for the rest of the year, beginning in February, will be held on the first and third Mondays, as usual.
Unless it falls on a holiday and then
Unless it falls on a
to Tuesday.
holiday, then it goes to a Tuesday, and we will be updating the calendar on the website to reflect those meeting dates.
Correct. So we need, do we need a motion to accept that, Mr. Scott?
I'd recommend a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to post the council meeting dates as stated by our city clerk for 2018. Discussion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion does carry. Next, we have city administrator comments. Mr. Holland.
Just a few things. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been meeting with the department heads one-on-one, and we've been talking about their evaluation, and maybe more importantly, we've been talking about maybe not what has passed, but what are we looking forward to in 2018. So I'm very pleased with the outcomes of this meetings, and I really do look forward to 2018, and I know earlier I spoke with some exuberance to the mayor about 2018. And I still speak with exuberance because I think it's going to be a great year for the community and for the city. Also, people have asked me how are things going, and my wife and I would just say that I want to publicly thank everybody in this community that has been so friendly, so kind to me and my wife, and we do appreciate that. It does make a difference when you come to a community and people are nice to you, and they say hi to you and do those type of things. And so we do appreciate that. And we thank our church, who's been very welcoming to us. And we also thank the council, of course, and the mayor and the city employees. And we had a great gathering over the weekend and a great turnout. And so I'm very appreciative of that and look forward to a great new year. So I just wanted to say that. I'm sorry I didn't bring the eggnog and cookies that I was told I was supposed to bring, but maybe next year. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. Next is the mayor's announcements. And this past weekend, the Community Integration Center held an open house in downtown Willmar. And I just want the public to know the good work that they're doing in our community. I had the privilege of meeting with them on Tuesday. Very, very positive experience that I had. And the thing that I liked when I went down there specifically is when I walked in and I talked about some of the turmoil that's happening within our community right now, the answer that I got back was, Mr. Mayor, we understand. We understand that communities have growing pains and these types of things happen. So at their urging, these differences we have to work on assimilating and putting them behind us and moving forward as a community. I want to publicly apologize for not being at the meeting on Saturday. There was a miscommunication on my part that I had said that I would be there and I wasn't there, and that's the wrong thing. And so publicly I want to just tell the community that I had made a commitment to be there and I wasn't, and I apologize for that. The other thing that we had that happened this past weekend was the 40th anniversary of the Wilmer 8. And our community has always stood strong for their beliefs, for what they believe is right, for women's rights, for all rights for all people. And that's one thing that makes Wilmer a proud community, and one thing that I'm very proud to be the mayor of a community that holds those values. I also appreciate the values that our newcomers are bringing to our community. I'm looking at things totally different than I did 10 years ago. And it's making me a better person, and I urge each of you to assimilate, to go down, shake hands, be friendly, get to know the newcomers to our community, because you'll find that they're here for the same reason that we're here. They're here for the same reason that our grandparents and great-grandparents came. They want a better life for their families, themselves, and if we had near the conflict that they had coming here, we would be so appreciative of what they bring to this community. When we take a look at our schools, if we didn't have the diversity we have, our schools wouldn't be what our schools are. Our community wouldn't be what our community is. You know, a lot of times people say that it's a drain on our local economy. Folks, it's not a drain on our local economy. It's a boost to our local economy. If we didn't have the diversity that we have, I'm not sure. I guess I'm at a point where I'm retired, so it's from my vocation other than the mayor. But if all of a sudden we had Genio leave our community, you probably wouldn't be able to sell a house in this community for years. Look what happened up on the Iron Range when they closed the mines. And to say that there's no benefit to our immigrant communities, I mean, folks, we have to turn the lights on and figure this out. So I encourage you this Christmas season, the season of Christ's birth, to go down, make a new friend, shake a new hand, and be a welcoming community that we all know we should be here in Wilmer. I know we all have our differences, we all have our opinions, we all have our First Amendment rights, just as I'm exercising my First Amendment right now. But at the same point, the golden rule that my mom taught me was, be nice. And when I was with the fire department, I used to go down to Phoenix, Arizona, and we came back from Phoenix, Arizona after a leadership conference, and we had these signs that we put up at the fire station. Frank, you probably remember this. Chief Hansen, I apologize. And we put them in the fire trucks. And it just simply said, be nice. That's all it said. They were red and white signs. And at the end of the day, let's just be nice. Make it a great Christmas. We are a great community. Look forward to an exciting 2018. Councilmember Meske.
Start with me?
I'm going to, because I think I started with Councilman Rasmus last time.
All right, I'll just say that, because I was going to actually say some of those events that you had mentioned, but...
Would you like me to go with somebody else?
No, that's all right. I'll just say it's been an honor and privilege. This year has been an exceptional year. I think the council has really moved forward and had some clear priorities, and I want to thank the citizens of Wilmer. It's been actually an honor and privilege to serve, and I'm looking forward to the next few years.
Thank you. Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. If you get a chance, drive around the community and look at the beautiful lights. There's some nice displays in College View, Pleasant View, and Pheasant Run. And don't forget to go out to Kuzman's, because that might be the last year out there. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you. I'll just say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I hope you have a great holiday season. I will comment, I was at the meeting on Saturday, and I would encourage all of us, this was the first that they plan to do, and they plan to do a lot more. And I think the two words there that they used that day that I think struck me is, "We are better together." And I think those are words that they shared, and I think they apply to all of us. I think we have a great community, and I'm looking forward to 2018 as we do work together. So, thank you.
Councilmember Christensen.
How much time do I get?
Well, I think I took about 7 minutes, so you have less than that, because I don't want you to outdo me.
Well, then I'm just going to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and have a wonderful New Year, and I look forward to 2018.
Councilmember Schwantes.
I'll just echo the good things that have been said. It's a wonderful community, and we appreciate you all.
Councilmember Alvarado.
Well, I was busy with family stuff this weekend. I'm sorry I missed the community integration program. And I also am deeply saddened that I missed the recognition of our city employees at the Christmas holiday party this past week. I am thankful and very pleased to be a part of such a quality group that we call our employees of Wilmer. And I can't thank enough of you, say enough praise and thanks for all you do. You're very friendly, you're very accommodating, and you make our job easier on the board. So I want to thank you for that. I too wish you all a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year's, and I'm looking forward to next year. Man, we have done a lot of work, and we got a lot of work ahead of us. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Osmus.
Okay, do we need one more Merry Christmas?
Never enough.
Never enough. It's been a great year. I am also looking forward to 2018. I was able to attend the city employee recognition and get together on Saturday. I want to thank the city administrator and staff for putting that together. It's good to acknowledge our employees. I think that's a nice change. It was a nice addition for our great staff. And boy, yeah, we're going to have a great 2018.
Excellent. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. We are adjourned.